Okay, welcome to commodityanalysis.co.uk and the first in a series of short videos that are going to be featured on our site in the resources and video section. The first video is just a basics, an introduction to reaction lines. And I guess if you do a search on Google and see what information is out there, apart from some old blog material by us and a very good piece, several pieces and a book by Patrick McCullough. Really, there's not a lot of information out there. There's a lot of information about action-reaction and action-reaction lines, which is Andrew's own take on and his work on reaction lines, which is extremely valuable. But I want to talk about in the context of our website, what you're seeing on all these charts. What are these red dashed lines? And you'll know by now if you're watching this, and I hope you've got a basic to intermediate understanding of Andrew's pitchforks, that we use multiple pitchforks, historical pitchforks, drawn from the most important pivots in any futures market or chart we use. And on top of that, reaction lines. And what I mean by reaction lines are warning lines and classic reaction lines vis-a-vis the Andrews pitchfork. And what exactly is the reaction line and how it's drawn? Well, in this particular case, we're using MT4, MetaTrader 4, and MetaTrader 4 is enables us to have a custom indicator, and the custom indicator naturally draws these lines for you. And I'm just going to show you, if we go to our indicators list that's free, there it is. So you've basically got, you name the fork, you choose your type of median line, whether you want shift modified or any other, and that's why I say a simple Andrews pitchfork, because there are several versions or different type of pitchforks, including a new one that we're using. And there you are. You can choose the color, you can use trigger lines, inner lines, well, that means fibs or quartiles, number of warning lines, whether you want to draw warning lines, reaction lines, whether you want to draw how many. So it's all there. It's a smorgasbord of all the different variables and inputs you can choose. So that means that actually we can't actually move these if we want to. They'll automatically they're coded in this way that obviously they'll revert to their natural position in relation to the free pivots that are chosen of that named numbered fork. So here we are, cable. This is a daily chart. The three most significant pivots, A, B, and C. Simple. The fork here is drawn from these three pivots, and the reaction lines are added by the indicator. But what are they? Well, quite simply, the reaction lines are drawn at a specific interval and belong to this fork and this set of pivots. A, B, and C. The distance from A to the midpoint of this line is this distance here. Okay, this distance here is then projected forward into the body of the fork. This distance here is also projected along the B upper median line parallel and the C extended, and you'll get a line that is parallel to the BC line at this interval. And there's the first one, as we've just seen, there's the second one, the third one, and you can nominate how many you draw. We have extended, using this indicator, these lines beyond the body of the fork, so they go out into the main body of the chart, way beyond, and that's not unusual. In many of our charts, price may have long since left the original fork, but we will still be using If they are significant pivots, and I'm talking about in weekly, daily, weekly, and monthly, we are still using that fork, even though, and more importantly, it's reaction and warning lines, even though price has long since left the body of the fork. And I also want to tell you something else. I refer to reaction lines. There's no way, without referencing, when you're looking at a complicated chart, a study, whether it's a warning line or reaction line. And in fact, it doesn't really matter. The bottom line is if it's either supporting price or opposing price, or resisting price, in other words. If it's a downsloping reaction line, it's going to be resisting price. If it's an upsloping reaction line, there's a possibility, a high probability, it will be supporting price. So, in this particular case, we've chosen these three pivots, but I want to drop down to the 240 minute and just see that is the current situation, and that's a beautiful reaction line. That is exactly why we draw them. I can't choose a better example, and all I did was just pull up today's chart, and I certainly wasn't looking for that. And let's go back and have a look at this. Is from end of Feb, early March, and there again is behavior. This is, you can see price is oscillating around this reaction line and working its way and finding support down there. In fact, if we have a look at this chart, you'll notice there's a bit of an overshoot. I guess we could do something like that. Although that is a trend line. In fact, it's not even a trend line. It's not even drawn properly. But all I'm saying is we're spilling over slightly the lower median line parallel from this particular fork. But this is exactly why we're drawing these lines, because they affect price. It's as simple as that. And there you are. There's a bit of shoddy workmanship, and that's important. Every pivot, because of these lines, a slight error in drawing your fork will result in the location of your line being erroneous. In other words, in the wrong place. This is in the 240 minutes. So if we were to drop down to 5, 10, 15 minute, it could be as much as 20, 30 pips out. So it's incredibly important, and that's more like it. Now you can see perfect. Yeah, and we've got something going on there, but we'd have to play around. I'd have to look at that and see what we couldn't find. But let's go back to the daily chart and not get too bogged down there. I want to show you something here. If we move these pivots around, and let's just, for example, I want to do this. Okay, let's draw a new fork, and let's use that low there. Okay, so we've got a new fork, and let's drop down to the 240 minute, and let's tighten the whole thing up. There we go, and let's just have a look, because you will. What does any fork do? It expresses the relationship. It expresses the relationship between three pivots. Okay, that's all I believe it does. Let's have a look at the price behavior here. The center line again working a treat. Yes, there's definitely something going on here, and the same with this reaction line here. And there's, I mean, this is the 240 minutes. So I mean, these are substantial moves. But my point is, what I'm trying to illustrate here is price is never just operating in one fork. I don't know how people can even think that for a moment. Price is not operating in one fork, because price is being affected by more than one part of its history. In other words, a multitude of pivots. And to draw and get an idea of what's going on, we have to look at the relationships between various sets of pivots. So I'm going to just crack over here. I want to show you. This is the same fork we were looking at originally, the ABC. And this is, of course, a new fork here, which is actually drawn from this pivot, and now has been extended back to this. And obviously, both these forks share pivot A and pivot C. But there's nothing wrong with this fork at all. Although we've deconstructed the BC wave here, this move from B to C, we've bisected this. Let's drop down to the 240 minute. Perfect. We've actually bisected that perfectly. Let's just move that very slightly. So you can see price, we could use that for this new fork. But what I'm saying and what I'm trying to show you here is we've got both sets of reaction lines overlapping. That's an important piece of information, because it tells us that price shares. And there we go. Let's have a look. Let's go down here. We've already seen this. That's the first reaction line number. I think number 2, and this is number 1. Number 1. You know, and you've got to play around, and you will find. And now that starts to make sense. You see, some of this price action, if you can search and find some of these pivotal relationships, and they are pivotal relationships in more ways than one, you will be able to suddenly see patterns where you're seeing price squeeze between two reaction lines, a median line, a reaction line, and there are various setups that we formulated, back tested over the last 5 years, done some very exciting work, and we'll again be posting. I will be posting more information. So the bottom line here is the reaction line. Let's go back. The reaction line is the distance from A to the BC midpoint projected forward and then drawn parallel to the BC line. And in this case, this indicator, this custom indicator, is available free of charge to anyone who wants it. Just drop me a line. I'll send you the MQ4 file with instructions how to download it. I didn't do the coding, so it's certainly not mine. It's open source, or whatever it's called, a free source. But I hope this has been of some help for you, and we will be back shortly in the next video, going deeper into historical pitchfork trading and also reaction line trading. Thank you very much. Bye now.